Rothopaki Kisumu.
We are celebrating 25 years anniversary of Citam in Kisumu.
Citam Kisumu at 25.
I congratulate Citam Kisumu as you celebrate your 25th year of existence.
The journey started in 1999. We used to meet every Tuesday morning. Then he asked, I have a burden. I have a burden for other cities in Kenya.
We thank God because 25 years ago, we had a strategic plan to reach the major centers, the major towns, major cities of Kenya.
And I've already identified Kisumu. We need somebody to go there. And he said, who will go for us? There was a silence in the room. We would leave the meeting, we'd nudge ourselves, whereenda. We also had good reasons. And so one Tuesday morning, towards the end of August, I surprised the meeting. I said, I'm willing. Take it from January to 1999, now to August now. Is when now we responded to the call. My assignment was to put up a church in that place. And in our coming down to Kisumu, we met with what I call a man of peace. A man of peace is a man or somebody who receives you and shows you around and is able to give you that hospitality and welcome. PAG introduced us to this man. It's called Silas Ochieng. He was a PAG pastor of Lake Primary School. And so we started building the fellowship at Lake Primary.
We first met in Royal Hotel. Royal Hotel, the current Kisumu Hotel. That's where I first met Pastor Martin in the company of Helen McMean, who was a PLC missionary. And that's where we first discussed their interest to come over and to take over Kisumu Pentecostal Church to become one of their branches. And he sought my agreement if I am willing to work with them. And I said, why not? So then the church was in Lake Primary School Hall. Mm-hmm. There was a hall in Lake Primary School. Yeah. And the church was known as Kisumu Pentecostal Church. Kisumu Pentecostal Church was begun by PLC missionary called Dr. Brooms many years back. Then he left. He went back to Caribbean island and the church was given over to PAG to run.
Lake Primary. But when I got into the sanctuary, then they were operating in a hall. I saw Pastor Bandu was the preacher that day.
They had a plot. They had a piece of land which the missionary had. It was Tomboya, where actually we started the church. Pentecostal Assemblies of Canada, eventually by their field director, Ken Batch, who visited at one time, and they went and showed me that piece of land, about 1.5 acres. And he told me, look, this is what we had for NPC. So the second week of 2000 in January, second Sunday, I might not recall the date very well, we said it's time to launch.
It was challenging because the first structure we put up came down because we didn't have the experts. But the following day it was put up and it stayed there for that long time until we moved to this place.
The community came from other churches to discover what's going on. And amazingly, it was a bang. Pastor White preached on that Sunday. And then they said, now you guys, you can go forward. And then they left. And I decided to believe in people's giftings, people's calling. Together, we decided to do the leadership in terms of pulpit ministry, sharing pulpit ministry. And as you know, Citam has got 4 pillars. And so it was easy now for my wife to take over the children pillar and the women pillar. And this brother Silas took up the youth pillar. And I took the men's fellowship pillar. And others, actually, they came down through these pillars. The volunteers were there. For example, there's a lady called Emily Kusimba. I do ushering where I am, so allow me to take over ushering. Praise and worship, my wife put together a team of people who would do praise and worship. There's a gentleman called Isweha and another called Dan, whatever. So Mary Kaemba also. But the leadership in all these teams were handled by the pastoral team. Before now, we started releasing and allowing other people to take leadership in them. And it took about 2 years before now, we had an established leadership.
Martin had such great exposure in leadership. He had been trained by the Haggai Institute, apart from his theological training. And that, I think, made him do what he did.
I could not tell the reception until almost a year down the road. That's when the barbs started coming, the arrows started coming left and right, complaining that this devil worshippers church has come from Nairobi, as this, and they started warning. I could hear from various pockets that don't go to that church, don't go to that church, it's like this, like that. And the pastors' fellowship in Kisumu here, they warned me. I got a warning from them telling me that you better shut and go, we'll clear you, things like that. But I concentrated what God called me. We had our first membership intake after some time. And we had a baptism. There was a tank that we were baptizing from. I don't know anybody saw that water tank that we built there, and decided to baptize people from there. But I must confess that 50% of the people who came in, they were migrants from other churches. We came in as an English-speaking church. And so that built a very good bank or a deposit of children. And now when we did a DVBS, the first 2 days was a little bit struggling. But I can assure you, by the time we were closing on a Friday and Sunday, we had a number of kids. During the year 2001, to the end of 20, when the end of the year came, they recorded a very high scoring in the academics in most of the primary schools. And the parents were surprised. They became a good English-speaking children. They would go to school and they would talk in English. And they invite other children, come to our church. We learn, we sing, we preach, we have activities in English. So one of the people invited here was Steve Mutua, who was the director of CFAN, Christ for All Nations. And he gave me a suggestion, why don't we invite Reinhard Bonnke, because on his itinerary, there is a slot for Kenya. Why don't he come to Kisumu? I said, well and good. And so Steve Mutua asked me to coordinate, to host this crusade. This time we were having a good rapport with the Pastors' Fellowship in Kisumu. So I invited them and they came, especially the church fathers here like Silas Owiti, Ogonyo Gende, and other Mark Gohe, and even the Anglican Bishop Francis Obiero, and we had gotten friends. So we mobilized one another together and decided to work out on the invitation of Reinhard Bonnke. That also was a landmark in the kind of promoting or marketing or sensitizing the community in Kisumu about Citam. We were in a tent, and the weather, the climate, for example, about 5 times, yes, I can recall 5 times, the tent was ripped off. The tent, together with some steel, had shifted to that estate, Gilfinian estate. And I thank God that it was not on a Sunday. Thank God it was on a Monday. I don't know what would have happened had it happened on a Sunday. In the early stages, we had a challenge with the abolition bloc. I realized one time I was preaching that people will rise up in the church as if they're going to the washroom, but then they'll go through the washroom and go home. Then I discovered that people in Kisumu, they don't really welcome, especially in town, in the city. They didn't really welcome these long drops. And so I had to make noise to my head office and urge my overseer Adoyo by then that I'm losing members because of the toilet. So please, let's build me an abolition block. And they did that, and I asked them to put in a big mirror, and there was a first-class, beautiful abolition block. 2007, when the post-election came in, we had quite a number of exodus. People moved. And thank God that personally and my wife, we had a relationship with the community around there, especially Kondele, Obunga. The church started growing. We started experiencing quite a lot of growth. Actually, we expanded the tent outward until we could not extend it anymore in terms of overflowing. We never thought of a second service for a good reason. We were in a tent, and the temperatures, the heat, so we could not afford to have two services. Otherwise, the second service, nobody will come because the tent is hot. But then a miracle happened. I got sick one day. We got in the hospital. I heard that word admit, and I jumped out. But the doctor insisted I have to be admitted. And I said, never, never. 2 days down the road, actually I felt I was strong. So I decided to walk, to have an exit, go back to Tomboya. And as I was getting down into Nakumat in town, and she was shocked to see me walking 2 days after I refused to be admitted. And she was looking at me, trying to touch me. Are you not the patient? Are you not that pastor? How come? A Mwindi lady called Dr. Kamara. So she insisted I have to go and pray for her grandmother. And I obliged. I said, okay, fine, we'll go. And lo and behold, she insisted she wants to come to my temple. And the doctor lady, together with her father and her brother, they came to church at Tomboya. Then she called for me, and then she asked me, if your God is so powerful like that, why does he torture you in the sun in the tent? Can't God have a good place for worship? Then I told her, yeah, we are in the process of looking for a piece of land. No. We will get it. And so that's how this lady introduced us to this place. But then it was Kisumu High School. So I asked them how much. They said 25 million shillings. And so they asked me, how much can you pay? And I immediately I just told them 12 million. I had not consulted Citam, my bishop, and I just told them 12 million. They said, no, you're joking. No. How can we come from 25 to 12 million? I said, we're stuck on that. The grandmother to this doctor, I used to visit her. I said, have you got that piece of land? I said, no. They're asking for 25. So she asked me, so how much are you willing to pay? I told her 12 million. She instructed her daughter, who was the secretary to this Mr. CLA, tell those people to sell to this church the price they want. So actually, the seller agreed for 12 million. I called Bishop Adoyo. They convened a deacon board, and lo and behold, they came over.
And God favored us and granted us this place where we are right now, where we built Citam Kisumu. It was a school, an Asian school. God gave us favor, and they sold us the school.
And so we were able to acquire this plot, 7 acres, Milimani, on Nairobi Kisumu Road, for 12 million shillings. We did quite a number of raising here, but the major one we did was with the support of Mayor. By then it was a lady called Priscilla. So we did a 40-kilometer walk. And lo and behold, we raised a good amount of money. And so they agreed to build this sanctuary for us. The PC, can't remember his name very well, who came and Reverend Adoyo blessed the building, dedicated it to the Lord, and then the PC opened it, and we were grateful to God. We wanted to have a people remaining a branch in Tomboya, but you know, with Nyanza, nobody wanted to remain in a tent. If we have an intercooler, what do I do in the tent there? So up to now, I don't know what Citam is thinking about that plot. We all came this way. And we thank God, we really thank God that in 2009, we were graced by His Excellency, the then President, His Excellency, Honorable Emilio Mwai Kibaki. This time they came with Honorable Raila. This church was able to hold over 10,000 people, and it did not collapse. So the architect was just amazed.
As a senior pastor at the Kisumu Pentecostal Church, between October 2009 and August 2010.
I reported to Citam Kisumu in September 2010, where I served as a senior pastor up to December 2014. We truly thank God for what we were able to do together. And it was because of a cohesive team of advisory members and the pastoral team. We worked on our annual themes together for the period that I was there, and actually came up with Bible study materials aligned to the themes so that we can keep to the track. Citam Kisumu quickly adopted digital ministry very fast, and with a love for excellence, strides in that regard were easy to make.
What a joy to be part of 25 years of existence. Happy anniversary. I'm so glad to be part of what God did in Citam Kisumu. I landed in Kisumu in December 2014. And for 7.5 years, I was the senior pastor in the assembly, and I as well doubled it up as a regional overseer of the Western region. It was just to build on what others had done. I saw a lot of growth. As I landed, I concentrated a lot on the spiritual nourishment, as well the renovation. The place was set ready for the growth of the assembly. We managed to do the spiritual work to strengthen the ministry. All the ministry were running concurrently very well. But let me say a few highlights that could help us to celebrate the 25 years of existing. One was changing the roof, putting the staircases inside, working on the driveway to put cabro on the parking lot. We as well ensured trees are planted, more flowers. Kisumu people needed a screen like Madung screen. We made sure those things are there because they don't like matini. They don't like. The Lord led us, and Kisumu looked so nice. I loved it. church on the lakeside.
I had the privilege of serving here at Citam Kisumu as the 5th senior pastor. In the last two and a half years, we have really experienced great growth at Citam Kisumu. And as a matter of fact, we recorded, I think 2023 was the highest. We recorded about 30% growth. And I remember even financially, we grew quite a bit. I also look at just the revival that we have witnessed in specific ministries, in the way we have done ministry. And I remember about the men fellowship and just reigniting the men fellowship and setting off the men's baraza. Just from moving from an average of 30 people meeting every Saturday morning to over 150 meeting, the revival in terms of the urge for people to go for missions. When we were involved in Injili Mashinani for about 2 years consistently, we did a great work, and that was a great highlight. Remember the mission of Citam, to know God and make Him known.
All we have to say is thank you, Lord, for being with us for the last 25 years. Citam Kisumu at 25.